What if one of the most unbelievable records in K-pop wasn't about a single song, a single album, or even a single comeback? What if it was about one artist continuing to be chosen week after week, month after month, season after season? And what if, after all this time, the name at the very top was still the same? Kim Seokjin, BTS's Jin. Because on August 26th, another remarkable chapter was added to Jin's already extraordinary 2026. Jin has officially taken first place in the K-pop solo category of No.1 Pick's 2026 second season chart. But the shocking part isn't simply that he won, it's how convincingly he won, and what this victory means when placed beside everything else he has accomplished. During the voting period from July 15 to July 25th, Jin collected 21,575 votes. His final share? An incredible 59%. Nearly 6 out of every 10 votes in the category went to Jin. That is not a narrow victory. That is not a result decided by smallest possible margin. It is a powerful demonstration of the loyalty and consistency surrounding him. And there is something particularly beautiful about this victory, because Jin isn't winning this seasonal chart for the first time. He has done it before, and now he has done it again. Following his victory in Season 1, Jin has claimed the No.1 Pick seasonal throne for 2 consecutive seasons. 2 seasons, 2 victories, and another trophy heading in his direction. The No.1 Pick season chart is also different from a simple popularity snapshot. The chart incorporates fan participation from weekly, monthly, and quarterly rankings. In other words, this isn't about one explosive day where an artist suddenly becomes the center of attention. It reflects support that has continued across different periods of time. And that makes Jin's victory even more meaningful, because consistency is one of the hardest things to maintain in entertainment. A song can go viral, an appearance can become a trending topic, a comeback can generate massive attention. But maintaining that level of support over months and years? That's an entirely different challenge. And Jin continues to do exactly that. In fact, while this seasonal victory was being announced, Jin was already carrying another record that seems almost unreal. 130 consecutive weeks at #1. Yes, 130 consecutive weeks. Imagine watching the weekly ranking change for more than 2 years and seeing Jin's name continue to appear at the top. New songs arrive, new artists debut, comebacks happen, trends shift. The entertainment industry moves at incredible speed. And yet, week after week, the fans continue returning to the same name, Jin, #1. Again, and again, and again. That 130th consecutive victory came in the 4th week of August. It is the kind of number that makes you stop and calculate just how long this reign has lasted. Because 130 weeks isn't simply a statistic, it represents hundreds of individual days. Hundreds of moments when fans could have chosen someone else. Hundreds of ranking updates. Hundreds of opportunities for the streak to end. But it didn't. Instead, the number kept growing. And the story doesn't end there. Jin has also continued his incredible 31 consecutive months at #1. 31 months. More than 2.5 years of monthly dominance. And if that wasn't enough, he also secured his 28th consecutive victory on the One Pick chart after reaching #1 last month. So when you look at the bigger picture, Jin isn't simply collecting isolated victories. He is building a pattern, weekly, monthly, seasonal, and across multiple fan voting measurements. The pattern keeps pointing in the same direction, Jin at the top. And perhaps that is why this latest No.1 Pick victory feels different. Because it arrives at a time when Jin's musical achievements are also reaching another enormous milestone. On August 18th, Jin's song, Don't Say You Love Me, surpassed 1 billion cumulative streams on Spotify. The song is the title track from Jin's second solo mini-album, Echo. 1 billion streams. There is something almost emotional about that number when you think about what it represents. A billion isn't created by one person listening once, it comes from millions of individual listening moments. Someone playing the song on the way to work, someone listening late at night, someone replaying it because one particular lyric hit differently that day. Someone discovering Jin's voice for the very first time. Someone who has been listening since the beginning and still hasn't stopped. All of those tiny moments eventually become one gigantic number. 1,000,000. And Jin has now reached it. But perhaps the most remarkable part is that Jin isn't achieving these milestones from a distance. He is actively living through one of the biggest chapters of his career. Right now, he is traveling with BTS during the group's massive Arirang World Tour, and the latest stop provided yet another reminder of just how powerful Jin's presence can be. On August 23rd and 24th, BTS performed in Toronto, Canada, and once again, Jin's name exploded across social media. On both concert days, Jin ranked #1 on Korea's real-time trends on X, formerly known as Twitter. And the attention wasn't limited to Korea. He also appeared among real-time trends in several countries, including the United States. Think about the scene. Inside the stadium, thousands of fans were watching Jin perform. Outside the venue, millions of conversations were happening online. Photos were being shared, videos were being replayed. Fans were discussing his appearance, his voice, his expressions, his stage presence, those little Jin moments that somehow become impossible to ignore. And before long, his name was trending internationally. That's the fascinating thing about Jin. There are artists who dominate charts, there are artists who dominate social media, there are artists who dominate stages, but Jin repeatedly finds himself in all of these spaces at once. And there is another quality that makes his story particularly compelling. He has never needed to sacrifice his individuality to maintain that attention. Whether he is standing beneath enormous concert lights, appearing in a glamorous photo shoot, joking around with fans, or simply looking effortlessly handsome in a candid moment, there is always something unmistakably Jin about him. That combination of confidence, warmth, humor, elegance, and emotional sincerity has become part of his identity. And perhaps that is why the numbers feel so personal to the fans. When someone sees 130 consecutive weeks, they don't necessarily think about a statistic. They remember the moments that happened during those 130 weeks. The songs, the performances, the live streams, the concerts, the laughter, the unexpected messages, the difficult days when Jin's music provided comfort, and the happy days when celebrating another achievement felt like celebrating alongside someone they had grown attached to. That's the hidden story behind fan voting records. Every number is made from people, and every vote represents a choice. So when Jin receives 21,575 votes and captures 59% of the category, it isn't just a number printed on a chart. It is thousands of people saying, "We still choose you." And perhaps even more powerfully, "We will choose you again." That message becomes even more significant when you consider how long Jin's reign has lasted. Because maintaining excitement for a few weeks is one thing. Maintaining it for years is something else entirely. The entertainment industry is constantly changing. Every week brings new headlines. Every month brings new releases. Every season introduces new competitors. Yet Jin continues to remain remarkably stable at the top. And now he has another seasonal trophy to prove it. The 2026 second season chart victory also gives us a fascinating glimpse into what Jin's current era looks like. His solo music is reaching billion-stream milestones. His fan voting records continue expanding. His global visibility remains enormous. And at the same time, he is performing with BTS on the Arirang World Tour. It's almost as if several different versions of Jin's career are happening simultaneously. The solo artist, the global superstar, the BTS member, the performer, the fan voting champion, the artist whose songs continue accumulating streams, and the person whose smallest gestures can still send social media into chaos. All of these sides of Jin are existing at once, and somehow he continues moving forward. There is also something symbolic about the timing. Jin's latest seasonal victory comes during a period when BTS is actively traveling across the world. He isn't looking back at his previous achievements. He's still creating new ones. The story continues, and the next chapter is already waiting. Following Toronto, BTS is scheduled to continue the Arirang World Tour at Soldier Field in Chicago on August 28th and 29th, which immediately raises another question. If Toronto produced 2 consecutive days of Jin dominating Korea's real-time trends, what happens in Chicago? Will his name trend again? Will another performance become the next viral moment? Will another photo cause fans to lose their minds? Or will Jin somehow find another way to surprise everyone? At this point, predicting Jin's next milestone has become almost impossible, because every time the numbers seem enormous, he somehow makes them bigger. A weekly number. 1 becomes 100 weeks, then 110, then 120, then 130. A monthly victory becomes 1 year, then 2, then 31 consecutive months. A song becomes successful, then reaches hundreds of millions of streams, and eventually 1 billion. And now the seasonal crown has followed him again. Season 1, Jin. Season 2, Jin. The throne remains his. But perhaps the most touching part of this entire story isn't the trophy. It isn't even the 59%. It isn't the 130-week streak. It isn't the billion Spotify streams. It is the fact that, after all this time, people are still excited to see his name at the top. They still celebrate, they still vote, they still stream, they still travel to see him, they still fill stadiums, they still share his performances, they still turn his smallest moments into major conversations. And that kind of connection cannot simply be manufactured. It has to be earned. Over time. Through music. Through performances. Through personality. Through memories. Through countless moments shared between an artist and the people who support him. Jin's My One Pick victory is therefore more than another award. It is another confirmation of a relationship that has continued to grow. And maybe that's why the phrase My One Pick feels so appropriate here. Because when the fans had another chance to choose, they chose Jin. When another season arrived, they chose Jin again. When another month passed, they chose Jin. When another week came, they chose Jin. And now, after 130 consecutive weeks, 31 consecutive months, 28 consecutive one-pick victories, and another seasonal championship, the answer remains exactly the same. Jin. The man who continues to stand at the top. The artist whose music has now crossed 1 billion Spotify streams. The performer whose presence can turn an entire stadium into a sea of light. And the global star whose name can still take over real-time trends thousands of miles away from the stage. So perhaps the real question isn't whether Jin can remain on the throne, because right now, the evidence speaks for itself. The real question is, how much higher can this throne rise? 130 weeks has already become history. 31 months has already become history. 2 consecutive MY1 pick season chart victories have now become history. 1 billion streams has become history. But Jin isn't finished. Not even close. Chicago is next. The Arirang World Tour continues, the music continues, the votes continue. And if the past few years have taught us anything, it is this. Whenever Jin reaches what looks like the final milestone, he somehow turns it into the starting point for the next one. So congratulations to Jin. Not only for winning MY1 Pick's 2026 second season chart K-pop solo category, but for continuing a reign that has become one of the most remarkable stories surrounding a K-pop solo artist. 21,575 votes, 59%, 130 consecutive weeks at number 1, 31 consecutive months, 28 consecutive one-pick victories, and 1 billion Spotify streams for Don't Say You Love Me. The numbers are impressive, but behind every number are people. And behind those people is one simple choice, again and again and again. Kim Seokjin, still No.1, still chosen, still loved, and still standing on the throne.